Erev Tov, everyone, and apologies for the late start. We had a delivery coming, and it came just before we went on the air. So anyway, so we're not that far behind. Glad to be here. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore it must be the Shul Study with Rabbi A and Reb Reuven, who is not going to be with us tonight. He is having some computer problems again, and just no way to get him in here. So hopefully we'll be able to get that corrected here fairly soon and get him back on with us, because I really miss it when he's not with us, because he just adds so much to the study. Let's see. Let's check out the chat room here. See what we got going here. And so we have Geketta's with us. Shlomo, Guy, Henry. Good to have you with us. Crystal, Miles. And that's about it for the chat room. We got a few people watching in the background, but and we're glad you're here. We're glad everybody's here. Even if you don't come into the chat room, that's fine. As long as you're here. Okay. So we left off the last time we did the study, which we didn't have one last week. And again, because of what was going on last Wednesday, and because a lot of people around here like to light off fireworks, and and with all the kids running around and everything, there was just no way we were going to be able to do it and not be constantly interrupted by that. So we are back. But when we left off the last time, we were in the Sefer Bereshit, Genesis. This was Parasha Vayera, which should be fairly familiar, because we're just in there. We left off on chapter 21, verse 8. So, and because we are studying the Torah, we say the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'divrei Torah. And we are off. Okay, we on verse 8. The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day Yitzhak was weaned. Rashi goes on to comment that he was weaned at the end of 24 months, when he was 24 months old. The further commentary on that says that from the Sefer Bereshit Rabbah 53:10 and Ketubot folio 60a, and he was weaned, rather that, and she weaned him, indicating that he was weaned at the age at which children naturally reject breastfeeding, at 24 months. So, if you were ever wondering, now you know. Okay. Rashi goes on to say, a great feast. It was great in the sense that the great people of the generation were there. Shem, the son of Noach, and Eber, and Avimelech. Interesting, Avimelech. The further commentary says that from Tachuma Vishan, Vayishlach 23, the Torah does not give us great feast in a quantitative sense. For even the lavish feast of Ahasuerus from the Megillat Esther The lavish feast of Ashvera, described at the beginning of Esther, is not referred to by that term. It was used in a qualitative sense in that the leading spiritual personalities of the generation were present. According to Midrash Shecher Tov 34, Avimelech was a righteous person. A parallel Midrash from Bereshit Rabbah 53:10 reads, Og and the other huge people, huge in the sense of importance, in place of Shem, Ever, and Avimelech. Okay, so that gets us over to verse 9. Let me see here. Okay, we're not quite there yet. Well, let's see. Okay, from the Sefer Haggadah, and Abraham made a great feast. Rabbi Yehuda bar Shimon said, not a great feast, but a feast for great personages. Og and all the other great ones like him were there. At that time, Og was asked, did you not use to say, Abraham is like a barren mule and cannot beget children? Nevertheless, when Og looked at Yitzhak, he was able to reply, so this gift given to Abraham, that's its worth. Is not the creature a puny thing? Were I to put my finger upon him, I could crush him. The Holy One said to Og, how dare you belittle my gift? As you live, you will see thousands and myriads issue from his children's children. And it was at the hands of Yitzhak's descendants that this evil man Og was to fall. Continuing on from the Sefer Haggadah, God hath given me occasion for every joy. Someone that heareth will rejoice with me. This is in reference to Sarah. Kelsey Lynn has joined us. Good to see you. Heareth will rejoice with me. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzhak was quoted as speculating, if one person, let us call him Reuven, rejoices, why should other persons, let us call him Shimon, rejoice with him? So also, if Sarah was remembered and she conceived, why should others rejoice with her? However, when our mother Sarah was remembered, many other barren women were remembered with her. Many sick people were healed. Many deaf people gained their hearing. Many blind people were given their sight. Many madmen were cured of their madness, and amnesty was granted to the world. Rabbi Levi said, at Yitzhak's birth, the Holy One added brilliance to the luminaries. Accordingly, when Yitzhak was born, all heaven and earth, sun and moon, stars and planets rejoiced. And Abraham called the name of his son Yitzhak. The name Yitzhak signifies that that at his birth, Torah's law went forth. Yitzhak Yitzhak to the world, went forth as God's bounty to the world. Okay, so we're not at that point yet. So let me just mark that so I know where I'm at. That's going to come in the next verse. Okay. So we go on to verse 9. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian. Now remember, we've talked about Hagar before. That Hagar was, remember when Abraham was in Pharaoh's land and he had taken Sarai and God had told him to return Sarah to Abraham because he was a prophet and so on and so forth. And it says in there that he gave Abraham and Sarah actually flocks and cattle and maid servants and stuff like that. Well, one of the maid servants that he actually gave to Sarah was Hagar. Hagar was actually Pharaoh's daughter. Okay, so Sarah saw the son of Hagar and the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Rashi goes on to say that mocking, it connotates idolatry. As it says, and they got up to sport. Alternatively, it connotates sexual immorality. As you say, i.e., as the verse says, to make sport of me. Alternative. Now, you remember, now what we're talking about here is when Yosef was in the prison of Potiphar. Pharaoh had sent him, he was in the prison of Potiphar. Actually, he wasn't in the prison yet. This was why he ended up in the prison. So let me get that straight first. So when he was in Potiphar's employ as a slave, he was left alone in the house with Potiphar's wife. And she had been constantly trying to seduce him. And finally, when they were alone, she once again tried to seduce him. At that point, she grabbed his cloak. He ran out without his cloak. And she used it to say that, well, this Hebrew that you brought came to make sport with me, or sport of me, or whatever. Essentially, he had tried to rape me. And here's his cloak as proof. So that's what Rashi is trying to get to here by saying that, mocking, making sport of, connected to that. Alternatively, it connotates murder. As in the verse, let the lads get up and sport before us, etc. Ishmael is associated here with murder because he would contend with Yitzhak over the inheritance they would receive at Abraham's death and say, I am my father's firstborn. I am entitled to take double share of the inheritance. They would go out into the field, and Ishmael would take his bow and shoot arrows at Yitzhak. That's to say, i.e., like the situation described in the verse, like one who tires himself, shooting fireballs and so on. And says, am I not merely jesting? I'm just kidding. What are you worried about? We all have had that, run into that bully, beat the crap out of you and say, hey, I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke? Thus would Ishmael shoot arrows at Yitzhak with intent to kill and claim it was only in jest. Now, there's some other commentary, we'll probably get into it, but it says that Ishmael was getting Yitzhak to follow him into dangerous areas, with the idea that, the young boy would actually end up getting killed by some wild animal or some mishap or something. Okay, so The further commentary says that the verse speaks of the allegation by Potiphar's wife that Yosef attempted to commit adultery with her. Okay, we got that. Okay. Didn't need the extra commentary for that. I already do that. Okay, so the next one has to do with, let the lads get up and sport about us, etc. Second Samuel, chapter 2, verse 14. Avner, commander of King Saul's forces, encountered Yoav, commander of King David's forces. In the verse quoted, he suggested a contest between representatives of the two armies, which ended with the soldiers killing each other. Continuing on, the Al-Kabetz edition, okay, this is another edition, an earlier edition of Rashi's. And we see that different editions, some things have been subtracted from it, some things were added to other editions and stuff like that. So this is actually a lot more fuller than what they would have had many, many years ago. Let's say back to the 1400s or something like that. So the Al-Kabetz edition, followed by many later printings, has an additional clause here from Sarah's response, "For the son of that slave woman shall not inherit with my son." You can learn accordingly the next phrase would be translated that he would contend instead of because he would contend. Okay. We go on. I'm just looking to see if there's any other notes connected with this. It does not seem to be. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay, and this one is the shooting the fireballs and saying, "I am not," and am I not merely jesting? In Proverbs 26, 18, 19, the full verse reads, "Like one who tires himself shooting fireballs, arrows, and death, so is a man who tricks his friend and says, 'Am I not merely jesting?'" That's the whole of the statement. So, just checking here. Okay, so we're on to verse 10. I'm not, Kelsey, I'm not sure what you're getting at. Did I hear Rabbi mention a story similar to Genesis 39? Yeah, I think you're actually talking about what we were talking about here. Okay, so verse 10 goes on. "So she said to Abraham, 'Drive out this slave woman and her son, for the son of that slave woman shall not inherit with my son, with Yitzhak.'" Okay, the commentary, not a lot of commentary, but significant, that with my son, with Yitzhak. Since he is my son, Ishmael should not inherit with him, even if he were not as upright as Yitzhak actually is, or if he were only as upright as Yitzhak. Even if he were not my son, this one, Ishmael, would not be worthy to inherit with him. All the more so that Ishmael should not inherit with my son, with Yitzhak, for he has both qualities. He is my son, and he is upright. Now, as we go on, we find out more about Sarah's righteousness in the later parasha, which is parasha, Chaye Sarah, which we just read last Shabbat, which talks about the life of Sarah rather than Sarah's death, the life of Sarah, because of a righteous woman. They talk about her lifetime and the birth of Rachel, Rivka, Rivka, the birth of Rivka, who was born at the time that Sarah had died. And it said because of the righteousness of Sarah that it says in the commentary, and I'm trying to remember this, it says in the commentary that the one sun does not set without another sun rising, which means that one righteous person does not pass until another righteous person is born to take their place. Okay, and as I said, we will read about that more when we get into that. So the further commentary in here, basically there isn't. It's just basically it's referring back to Bereshit Rabbah 53:11 again, which we have already spoken about. However, in the Sefer Haggadah, wherefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son. Rabbi Akiva expounded. The verse implies that Sarah saw Ishmael build altars, catch locusts, and offer them with incense to an idol. Hence why it says here, connotates idol worship. So Sarah said, it may be that my son also will learn such practices and be inclined to such worship. And in the end, heaven's name will be profaned. But Abraham replied, after bestowing high status upon a person, are we to demean him? After we declare Hagar mistress and had her enter into the role of such importance, are we now to expel her from our home? Again, Abraham being Abraham. Okay? What will people say of us? Would not heaven's name be profaned by our actions? Sarah replied, since you say that the name would be profaned through Hagar's banishment, let him who is everywhere decide between you and me. And again, this is something that she has said before. When Hagar, first time that Hagar is pregnant. Now, we talked about this a while ago. Ishmael was Hagar's second child. The first child perished. Stillborn or something like that. We're not really sure exactly what it is, so we don't have any commentary on it. All we know is that at the time she was pregnant and she was told to go back to Sarah, and then later on she conceives Ishmael. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai commented, this passage is one of four that Rabbi Akiva explained, but that I do not expound as he did. And what I say appears to me to be more accurate. Now, this is I want you to pay attention to what Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is actually saying here. He is not saying that Rabbi Akiva is wrong. Now, if you've studied Likutei Moharan, and I've seen this happen. In fact, I just recently saw this happen. I was actually going to comment on it, but I just kind of held my tongue. Somebody commenting about something another rabbi said, or that a rabbi had said, and basically denigrating the rabbi for his comment. As you can see here, there's no denigration here. He's just basically saying, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. And that's what Rabbi Nachman of Breslov actually teaches us. He says we should never, ever denigrate one sage or a rabbi or something like that, a learned person because of what he says, because somebody else may say something different. So basically what you are seeing is that they are seeing it from two different perspectives. And each perspective is actually correct. But it's like Einstein said, perception is relative to the person's position, right? So, if one sees it from one aspect, they're going to draw one conclusion. Another person seeing it from a different aspect is going to draw a different conclusion. Doesn't mean that either one of them is not correct. And more than likely, it means that they are both correct. We just have to figure out what was their position when they were viewing this to give them that opinion. Let's see. Claire has joined us. Good to see you, Claire. Okay, so again, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai commented, this passage is one of four that Rabbi Akiva expounded on, but I do not expound as he did. He didn't say he wasn't correct. He said, I expound it differently. And then he goes on. And what I say appears to me to be more accurate. Not that it is more accurate, it just simply, from my perspective, and as I'm looking at it, it seems to me to be more accurate than what Rabbi Akiva was, from his position, was looking at. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai goes on to say, I say, God forbid that in the household of that righteous man there were ever such goings on. Is it conceivable that in the household of one of whom God had said, for I know him, is it conceivable that in his household idolatry was practiced? Rather, Ishmael's making sport with incense, which incensed Sarah and signifies mockery or ridicule, has to do not with idolatry, but with inheriting Abraham's estate. So basically, she's talking about in the future. Okay. For after Yitzhak was born to our father Abraham Avinu, everyone rejoiced, saying, a son is born to Abraham, a son is born to Abraham. He will inherit two portions in the world. Ishmael responded with ridicule. Don't be foolish, utterly foolish. I am the firstborn, and mine is the right to inherit the double portion. Okay, Rabbi, going on here, Rabbi Azariah said, in the name of Rabbi Levi, Ishmael suggested to Yitzhak, come, let us test our mettle in the field. Then Ishmael took a bow and arrows and shoot them in Yitzhak's direction, pretending that he was merely making sport. When Sarah saw such making sport, she told Abraham about it. Okay, remember, we learned about this a long time ago, that what is written in the Torah is not necessarily in chronological order. This may have taken place sometime down the road. So, let us go on. Increase that a little bit so I can grab it easier. Okay, we are on verse 11 now. And the matter greatly distressed Abraham, which you can imagine, because they are both his sons, So the matter distressed Abraham greatly regarding his son. Okay, so that is okay. So Rashi comments that regarding his son, for he heard that he had gone forth, i.e., adopted evil behavior. The additional commentary in here states that Techuma Shemot 1, Shemot Rabbi, had the verse said only, the matter greatly distressed Abraham, it would have been clear from the context that it referred to Sarah's demand that he send away Ishmael. The apparently superfluous regarding his son alludes to another thing, the report of Ishmael's sinful behavior. Furthermore, the following verse states explicitly that Abraham was distressed over having to send away both Ishmael and Hagar. If our verse mentioned his distress over Ishmael alone, it must not refer to the distress caused by Abraham's having to send him away. It refers to Abraham's hearing of Ishmael's sinful conduct. We go on with Rashi's commentary. There it is. And its simple meaning is regarding her telling him to send him away. The further commentary says, according to the simple meaning of our verse, refers to Ishmael alone. Although Abraham was also distressed over sending Hagar away because it was only over Ishmael that he was distressed greatly. Okay. And that is, that's all the commentary there is on that. Okay. So, we go on to verse 12. So God said to Abraham, be not distressed over the youth or your slave woman. Wherever, and that's how they draw the conclusion that he was distressed not only about Ishmael, but Hagar also. So, and guys, I want you to pay attention to what it says here. Great wisdom in this. So God said to Abraham, be not distressed over the youth or your slave woman. Whatever Sarah tells you, heed her voice, since through Yitzhak will offspring be considered yours. Okay? Listen to your wife. That's all I'm going to say. Listen to your wife, because God told Abraham Avinu, listen to your wife. Heed what she has to say. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow it. It just means that listen to what she has to say. There's going to be some wisdom there. Okay. So, Rashi goes on to say, heed her voice. We learn from this that Abraham was secondary to Sarah in matters of prophecy. Okay, so the further commentary goes on to say, some modern editions begin with this comment with the words, the voice of the Holy Spirit within her. This passage does not appear in any of the early printed editions, but was probably added on the basis of Rashi's comment to 16:2 above. Continuing on, Techuma Shemot Rabbi 1:1. The verse could have omitted the word Bekolah and said, Whatever Sarah tells you, you shall heed. The seemingly superfluous Bikulah refers to her prophetic voice. Okay, so we're going to go from 13 right into 14. There, Rashi has no commentary on 13. But the son of the slave woman as well will I make into a nation, for he is your offspring. And then verse 14, so Abraham arose early in the morning, took bread and a skin of water, and gave them to Hagar, and placed them on her shoulder, and the boy, and sent her off. And she went and strayed in the desert of Beersheba. Beersheba, actually. So, Rashi's commentary says, bread and a skin of water, but not silver and gold, because Abraham hated Ishmael for having gone forth to evil behavior. The further commentary says that, it actually says that this comment comes from Takuma Shemot and Shemot Rebbe. Okay. And the boy too, he placed on her shoulder. The further commentary says the boy too is an object of the verb and he placed. So you're getting a little grammar lesson here. Rashi is good for that. For Sarai implanted the evil eye into Ishmael. And a fever took hold of him, and he was unable to walk on his feet. And she went and strayed. She went back to the idols of her father's household, Egypt, Mitzrayim. Okay. The further commentary on this says, Pirkei, the Rabbi Eliezer 30, we would have expected the verse to say, she departed to the desert of Be'er Sheva, and she strayed. For she did not stray immediately upon her entry into the desert. She departed and strayed in the desert. Implies that she did not stray only in the construct sense. She strayed from the truth immediately upon her departure. So immediately on her departure, she went back to what she was used to, what she had been brought up with, which is the idols of Mitzrayim. Okay, going on to 15 now. And since we got started a few minutes late, we're going to run over a little farther tonight. So, 15. The water of the skin was finished, and she cast off the boy beneath one of the trees. Rashi says that the water of the skin was finished because it is the usual way of those who are ill to drink much. Again, this refers back to what she's talking about the Sarah, causing Ishmael to have a fever and not being able to walk. The further commentary says, Bereshit Rabbah, Rashi in his preceding comment said that Hagar was not lost in the desert in the simple sense. Why then did she run out of water? If she were not lost, she would have rationed her water to make it last until they arrived at the well where she could replenish her supply. Rashi explains that an unforeseen circumstance arose. Ishmael became ill, and drank more than normal. Okay, so um, verse 16. Let's catch up here. Okay, verse 16. She went and sat herself at a distance, some shots away, for she said, "Let me not see the death of the child." And she sat at a distance, lifted her voice, and wept. Now, a bow shot, anybody who's out there who has been a bow hunter or anything like that, you know how far a bow shot is. It's not just a little ways. Okay. Rashi's got a lot to say on this one. So he starts out as at a distance. This means from far off. Okay, and the further commentary says Neged could be taken as facing her son, but the verse gives, for she said, "Let me not see the death of the child," as the reason why she sat. Is the reason why she sat. Meneged. This would make sense if Meneged means at a distance, but it would not make sense if Meneged means facing. She would not sit facing her son if she did not want to see his death. Makes sense, right? Some bow shot away. About 2 bow shots, it says here. Rashi says. The further commentary says, Bereshit Rabbah 53:13, the plural bow shots, without further specification, implies a minimum plural of 2. So 2 bow shots. And again, that's a fair distance away. So about 2 bow shots. The word mitachave means the shooting of an arrow. In the language of the Mishnah, for example, we find the word Shetechia. I'm sorry. Now I got to find it again. Where was it? We find the. Okay, there it is. Okay. Shehetiha, in the phrase, who shot his wife? Shooting is used for sexual relations because the semen shoots like an arrow. And if you say, by the way of questioning, that it should have been written without the letter Vav, I will respond that it is proper for the Vav to enter here into the word of the pattern of Medhevi, as it does not. It does in the breaks of the rock. If I keep pulling out that magnifying glass, we're never going to get anywhere. Which is from the same root as the Chaga. The grounding of Judah will be the breakdown of Egypt. And then from the same root in they clash and move about like drunkards. Similarly, there is a vet in or vav in Katzve, in the ends of the earth, which is from the same root as the word Katseh. And she sat at a distance, since she saw that he was near death. She put herself at a greater distance. Okay, so let's catch up with the further commentary here. From Tractate Sanhedrin, folio 46a, the quotation is from the Baraita material written by the authors of the Mishnah, but not included in the Mishnah. Baraita means further extra writings. In essence, it means that. The root of the word, when roots end in, okay, this is going to be another grammar lesson here, so we'll just skip that. Okay. So, she put herself at a greater distance. The verse has already said that she set herself at a distance. It repeats this to teach us that as Ishmael approached death, Hagar sat at yet a greater distance from him. So she was actually at 2 bow shots away. She moved even further than that. And again, you can imagine that's quite a distance. So let's catch up with the Sefer Haggadah. Says, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and sent her away. Abraham took a wheeled water tub and tied it to Hagar's loins so that it would be pulled behind her, in order that whatever Abraham wished to see his son Ishmael, he might readily make out the direction in which Hagar and Ishmael had gone. Smart man. Presently Ishmael settled in the wilderness of Paran and took for himself a wife from the plains of Moab. Her name was Asa. Okay, and at the end of 3 years, Abraham went to see his son Ishmael in the wilderness of Paran, after first swearing to Sarah that he would not dismount from his camel in the place where Ishmael was living. Abraham reached there at midday, found Ishmael's wife, and asked her, where is Ishmael? And we're going to stop that at that point, because we haven't actually got into it here in the Sefer yet. Okay, so we're going to pause here. We're going to take our 6-minute break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to see what becomes of Ishmael. Okay, so everybody, let's see. Henry says, if she were so far away that she couldn't see the sun, she still might face towards him because of her love for him. And that's a point. I'll give you that. That is a point. Again, it kind of depends on the topography of the land too. I mean, if well, we could get it. We could what if this thing to death. But yeah, that is definitely a point. Okay, so we're going to take our break, and we will return in 6 minutes. So everybody, stay tuned. If I can get it to work.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies Everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. the show.
And we are back. Glad to see everybody stuck around. Okay. I want to step back for just a minute and get back to this commentary that we were reading from the Haggadah. This discussion about Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and Rabbi Akiva. And just to make clear, that you know who these people are. Rabbi Akiva, of course, as we know, one of the great rabbis. And he was, because he was ordaining rabbis, he was killed by being basically whipped to death. They flayed the skin from his back and killed him. But during the counting of the Omer, we take a break in the counting of the Omer, in all the restrictions that happen during the counting of the Omer. It happens on Lag BaOmer, which is the 33rd day of the Omer. And the reason that we take that break is because that is the death of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who called his death the day of his greatest joy. And he commanded that his students celebrate that day, to take a break from the Omer, to have a celebration and stuff. And it's celebrated huge bonfires in Israel, parties, picnics, people. One of the big things is people dressing up like Indians and playing with bow and arrows and stuff. Maybe not so much today, but back in the day before people got so politically correct, they used to do that kind of stuff. Okay, so anyway, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was one of Rabbi Akiva's students. And in fact, when the plague came that destroyed Rabbi Akiva's students, only one of his students actually survived the plague. And that was Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was such a righteous man that he was the original receiver of the Kabbalah, the mystical meanings of the Torah. So again, talking about this kind of not really a dispute. Again, as we said, Rabbi Akiva being one of Rabbi Shimon, being actually Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai's teacher, Admor, and him being a Talmid to Rabbi Akiva, he speaks very respectfully about him. He's not saying that he's wrong. He's just saying that from my point of view, I'm seeing this a little differently. And again, like I said, this is one of the lessons that we always need to learn, is that when we see differences between rabbis' interpretations of different verses and stuff like that, doesn't mean that that one is wrong and the other one is right. It just means that they're looking at it from two different perspectives. And Rabbi Nachman of Breslov has actually made the point that we should never denigrate one opinion over the other, because, again, they are more than likely they are both right, because they are seeing them from different perspectives. So neither one is wrong, and they probably are both right. Okay. In the general sense. We talked about each one. Okay, so we are on to 17 now. And God heard the voice of the youth And an angel of God called to Hagar from the heavens and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heeded the cry of the youth, as he is there." Like I said, a lot of commentary by Rashi on this. So let's begin here. The voice of the youth. From here we see that the prayer of the sick person is more effective than the prayers of others on his behalf. And it is answered first before the prayers of others. So when you're sick and you're asking people to pray for you, don't forget to pray for yourself, because your prayers will be answered before the prayers of others. Now, of course, other people joining in praying for your well-being, for your return to health, whatever it is, it's just going to make the prayer that much stronger. But the prayer of the person who's sick is the one that's going to be answered first. The further commentary in here says, Bereshit Rabbi 53:14, Hagar also prayed for Ishmael, as the preceding verse says that she lifted her voice and wept. Anytime we see that term, lifted their voice, her voice, his voice, whatever it is, means that they prayed. Okay, so even though she strayed, when times really got rough, what did she do? She prayed to Hashem. Okay, so voice and wept. But God heard the voice of Ishmael, not of Hagar, because the prayer which the sick person prays on his own behalf is answered before those of others, as we just said. Okay. As he is there. In accordance with the deeds that he does not at present, he is judged, and not in accordance with what he is destined to do. For the ministering angels were impugning Ishmael, and saying, Master of the world, he whose descendants are destined to put your children to death by thirst, would you cause a well to rise up for him? He answered them, What is he now, righteous or wicked? And they said to him, Righteous. He said to them, In accordance with his deeds at present, I judge him. This is the meaning of as he is there. In the state he is, there I judge him. Is there a comment, a further comment here? No, not yet. And where did Ishmael put Israel to death by thirst? When Nebuchadnezzar exiled them, as it says, a prophecy concerning Arabia, and so on. Towards the thirsty, they bring water, and so on. The further commentary says Isaiah 21:13 and 14. Those verses read in full, a prophecy concerning Arabia. In the forest of Arabia you spent the night. Caravans of the Danim. Toward the thirsty, they, i.e. the people in general, bring water. But the inhabitants of the land of Tema, a son of Ishmael, came before the wanderer with his bread. Targum Yotanan ben Uziel, followed by most commentaries and translated renders the verse children of Dedan, i.e. Dedanites. Rashi, however, explains that Dadim as B'nai Dodchem, the children of your uncle, i.e. your cousins. Some editions of Rashi's commentary here add the word, do not read as the Danites, but rather as cousins. But the clause is almost certainly the emendation of a copyist who was unfamiliar with Rashi's comment in Isaiah. Okay, so prophecy. Okay, those verses allude to the following: when they, the Babylonians, were leading the Jews near the Arabs, the descendants of Ishmael, Israel would say to their captors, "We beseech you, take us to the children of our uncle Ishmael, and they will have mercy on us." As it says, caravans of cousins. These Ishmaelites went out to greet the Jews and brought them meat and salted fish and inflated skin flasks. Israel was under the impression that they were full of water, and when a Jew would put the flask in his mouth and open it, the air would, which was in the flask, would enter his body, and he would die. Okay, the further it just refers to where that came from. Okay. We're not there yet. Okay. So there is no commentary on 18 or 19. So we'll go right from 18, 19, and to 20. Arise, lift up the youth, and grasp your hand upon him, for I will make a great nation of him. 19, then God opened her eyes, and she perceived a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the youth to drink. Verse 20, God was with the youth, and he grew up and dwelt in the desert and became a shooter, an archer. Rashi comments here, a shooter and archer. This means one who shoots arrows with a bow. Duh, right? An archer. This word refers to a craft of archery. Archer does not have the same meaning as bow. Would mean one who shoots a bow. But in Hebrew, the phrase does not have the same meaning as it does in English, i.e., one who shoots with a bow. It implies that a bow is an object which is being shot. Rashi therefore makes it clear that arrows are the object which is shot. Is not what the Reb shoots. It is another description of the Reb. By using both terms, a shooter and an archer, to describe Ishmael, the Torah indicates that he was an accomplished archer. Basically, what I infer from that is that basically what the statement says, she became a shooter and he became an archer, is not only was he skilled at using the bow, but that he was actually able to fashion the bow. He was actually able to fashion the arrows, and with which he would shoot. And so he was actually, a craftsman of these weapons, and was very skilled at using them, which you would expect of a craftsman. A craftsman who, makes something is usually very, very adept at using it, because, he knows exactly what it is, what its capabilities are. He also knows what its limitations are. So that's just basically my take on it. Okay, so an archer, the word refers to the craft of archery and is similar to the form of chamar, donkey driver, camel driver, and a trapper. This is why the shin of Keshet has a dagesh in it. And again, if you've studied Hebrew, you probably understand this. Ishmael would dwell in the desert and rob passersby. This is what is implied that when in that which it says about Ishmael, his hand in everything, and so on and so forth, which we'll read further on. The further commentary says, the camel driver, one whose occupation involves the gamal, or the camel. Zayed, trapper, one who is occupied, involve Zayed, game. The noun form, which denotes one whose occupation involves a particular object or activity. This is referring to the dagesh in the shin. The noun form, which denotes one whose occupation involves a particular object or activity, takes a dagesh in the middle of the letter. Another example is Genav, thief, whose occupation involves Geneva, thievery. And the Yag, fisherman, whose occupation involves Dagim, fish. So now you know. He dwelt in the desert and became a shooter and an archer does not mean that he was a sportsman or a hunter. It means that he was a bandit in fulfillment of what the angel had told Hagar. Okay. We go on, 21, excuse me. He dwelt in the desert of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. From the land of Mitzrayim, from the place where she grew up, as it says. She had an Egyptian maidservant. Sarah had an Egyptian maidservant. This is what people say, i.e. that this is an allusion of a common saying, throw a stick into the air, and it will land on its root. Okay, let's look at the further commentary and see if we can figure out what that's supposed to mean. Bereshit Rabbah. The point of this saying is that things tend to revert to their original nature. Here too, although Hagar adopted Abraham's way of life while she lived with him, she reverted to her Egyptian roots once she parted from him. Okay, I'll go along with that. I have to say that I rarely hear this, throw a stick into the air and it will land on its root. Okay, we don't hear that a lot these days. Maybe we should. Maybe I'll adopt it into my own lexicon. You know, well, instead of saying, he's going to follow his own way. Throw a stick into the air and it will land on its root. I kind of like that. It's a little more classy, isn't it? Make people go, what is he talking about? He must be right because it sounds so smart. He said as he drank a glass of water or a glass of tea to wet his whistle. Okay, moving on. I don't know how you guys are actually coming up with those little icons that you're putting up there. Kelsey Lynn put up an arrow, archery. I didn't even know there was such a thing on there. Okay. Just goes to show you how much attention I pay to the thing. 22, moving right along. At that time, Avimelech and Fichol, general of his legion, said to Abraham, God is with you in all that you do. Okay, remember we talked about this, about Abimelech actually understanding that why he didn't drive him out of the land like Pharaoh did, because he understood that blessing came into his land because Abraham was in the land. When the righteous man comes into the land, blessing comes in with him. And when the righteous man leaves the land, the blessing goes with him. So he actually understands that he is blessed because Abraham is in his land. Okay, so Rashi's commentary says, God is with you. They said this because they saw that he had left the vicinity of Sodom, safe and sound, although the area had been destroyed. And we talked about this the last time we were together. And that he waged war with kings, and they fell into his hands, which we talked about before. How he chased them. I mean, this guy, he is not a spring chicken. Yet he takes, 30 men? Takes 30 men and chases after, 4 kings, 5 kings? Chases them all the way up into, all the way from the Dead Sea, all the way up into the north, past Damascus, and then went into battle with them and slaughtered them all. Not a weak man. He's actually a very fierce warrior. We have this feeling, we have this concept that's been given to us that Abraham was this, kind of a, old, crippled up old man, kind of weak and stuff like that. No, absolutely not true at all. And that he waged war with kings, and they fell into his hands, and that his wife was remembered by God and conceived in his old age. Okay, so we talked about Ishmael in the land, in Paran, and stuff like that. And we kind of drop off here on Ishmael. But I want to get back to where we were talking about in the Sefer Agadah. At the end of 3 years, Abraham went to see his son Ishmael in the wilderness of Paran, after first swearing to Sarah that he would not dismount from his camel at the place where Ishmael was living. Abraham reached there at midday, found Ishmael's wife, and asked her, "Where is Ishmael?" She replied, he and his mother went to bring some fruit and to bring some fruits and brooms from the wilderness. Abraham said, give me a little water and a little bread, for I am weary from the journey through the wilderness. She replied, no bread, no water. Abraham said, when your husband Ishmael returns, tell him, an old man from the land of Canaan came to see you and said to tell you, the household of this house is not in good repair. When Ishmael returned, his wife gave him the message, whereupon he divorced her. Then his mother sent for a woman for her from her father's house in the land of Mitzrayim. Her name was Fatima. And Ishmael took her as a wife. At the end of another 3 years, Abraham went again to see his son Ishmael, after once more swearing that to Sarah that he would not dismount from the camel at the place where Ishmael lived. He reached there at midday, found Ishmael's wife, and asked her, where is Ishmael? She replied, he and his mother have gone to graze the camels in the wilderness. He said, give me a little bread and a little water, for I am weary from the journey through the wilderness. She brought these out and gave them to him. Then Abraham entreated the Holy One in his son's behalf, and Ishmael's house was filled with all manner of good things. When Ishmael came back, his wife told him what happened. Then Ishmael realized that his father still loved him. Okay. So we are on 23. And like I said, we got a little late start, so we're going to run a little over tonight. We'll probably do, we'll do a couple more. Okay. 23. Now swear to me here, and we're going back to Avimelech and Pechol. Now swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me or with my children or with my grandchildren. Now, if we remember back, if I'm remembering correctly, the last time he said, you will not deal falsely with me or with my children. Now, this time he's actually adding a generation on to that. You will not deal falsely with me, with my children, or with my grandchildren, according to the kindness that I have done with you. Do with me and with the land in which you have sojourned. Okay. Rashi goes on to say, or with my children or with my grandchildren. Up to this point, there is mercy of the Father over the sons. Excuse me. According to the kindness that I have done with you, do with me. What kindness is this? That I said to you, behold, my land is before you. Okay, so my land is before you. Go and settle in it. Okay, even though you brought evil on my house, go into my land and settle in the land. Because he knew that blessing was going to come into his land because of this. Okay. 24, no commentary by Rashi, but it says, and Abraham said, I will swear. We go on to 25. Then Abraham disputed with Avimelech regarding the well of water that Avimelech's servants had seized. Rashi goes on to say, Then Abraham disputed. He argued with him over this well. And the commentary in here says that he argued. The word chanech does not mean he rebuked, as it sometimes does. Abimelech was not aware that his servants had taken the well, so Abraham would not have rebuked him over this. Furthermore, it would have been disrespectful of Abraham to rebuke a king. With him having interpreted as the word as he argued, Rashi interprets the et of the sentence with had been he rebuked, he would have served only to indicate the object of the verb. And again, Rashi is going into teaching us grammar and sentence structure, which is, I guess it's necessary, but I don't take it any better than I did when I was in school. So there you go. Okay. So that was 25. There is no commentary until we get to 30. So let's just go straight through. Then Abraham disputed with Abimelech regarding the well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. Abimelech said, I do not know who did this thing. Furthermore, you have not told me, and moreover, I myself have not heard of it except for today. So Abraham took flocks and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them entered into a covenant. Abraham set 7 ewes of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what are these 7 ewes that you have set by themselves? And now we come to 30. And he said, because you are to take these 7 ewes from me, that it may serve me as witness that I have dug this well. Okay, so the commentary, Rashi says that it may serve me, i.e., that this act may serve me. The further commentary says, although the verse appears to speak of these 7 sheep, it nevertheless singular because it refers to this act, not these 7 sheep. This act is the covenant, not the 7 sheep. As witness. The word is in the feminine form for testimony, i.e. the female witness, as in, and the monument shall be witness. Talking about when Lamech pursues Yaakov, and says, let this monument be a witness. Below, the feminine form agrees with the feminine zot, which Rashi has said it is implicit subject of the clause tehiyeh. Thus must be understood as the third person feminine rather than the second person masculine. Abraham is not addressing Abimelech and saying to him, so that you shall serve me as a witness. Okay, I'll buy that. Okay. That I dug this well. The shepherds of Abimelech were quarreling over it and with the shepherds of Abraham and saying, we dug it. The shepherds said among themselves, whoever will appear at the well, and the water will rise to greet him. This is his. And the waters rose to greet Abraham. The further commentary says, Bereshit Rabbah, the gift of sheep in no way serves as evidence of Abraham's shepherds, that Abraham's shepherds dug the well. Rather, it serves as evidence that the water rose toward Abraham. For, as the Midrash states explicitly, it was towards Abraham's sheep that the water rose. Okay, we go on to 31. Well, let's make sure. Yeah, okay. So 31. Therefore, the place is called Be'er Shavah, because the two of them took an oath. 32. They entered into a covenant at Be'er Shavah. Avimelech then arose, and Phicol, general of his legion, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. And that is where we are going to pause for this week. And I figure out how to, let's just put it right here. We'll go ahead and pause here, and we'll pick this up next week. Okay. Okay, excuse me. ברקת אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו ברקת אדוני נתנה תורה. Okay. I want to thank you all again for being with us this evening. I hope you will return to be with us next week, or actually on Friday night at 8 p.m. for Kabbalat and Mariv Shabbat, and for Shabbat morning at 10 a.m., all times are Eastern, 10 a.m. for Shachrit and Musaf, and then, of course, Mondays with Zeta for Zeta's Story Corner, and then Wednesdays for the Torah study with Rabbi A, and hopefully next week back again with Reb Reuven. Okay, thank you all for being here. Let's see if we have anything else going on here. No, everything looks okay. So we will see you the next time. Until then, everybody, Laila Tov.